So in this video, we're just going to be creating a ReactJS carousel. There's three types of navigation. We have next buttons and previous buttons. We can do a mouse wheel scroll like that, and it recenters itself. It snaps back like that. We have mobile, so we have touch. Let me just do an F5. It's perfectly responsive, so it maintains its width relative to the window width. If we go below a certain point, it just goes 100%. So we have touch navigation. We can do the buttons here as well. And so if this interests you at all, stick around. Let's begin. All right, so I have a basic create React app up and running. I've taken out all the unnecessary files, the testing things and like icons and stuff like that. So let's start by normalizing the page, the body, and then we're going to create two components, and then we're going to get this thing going. So the index.css, we'll do that there. So body, we'll just do a margin of 0. We'll do a padding of 0 as well. We'll do a width of 100 viewport width, a height of 100 viewport height, and overflow will turn it on to hidden. So let's create two components, the deck and then the cards. The cards hold the images, and the deck holds the cards. Let me close this as well. Actually, we're going to need this. Let's do a new file. We'll call this deck.js. And we'll do another new file. We'll call this one the card.js. So let's import the deck for the app. Let's do import deck from components /deck.js, and we'll use it here. And let's import the card on the deck. So the deck's going to be a class component. So let's do that. I don't like the export default there. I'll put it at the bottom. Export default deck, and this imports the card because we're going to need that right here. We're going to import card from ./card.js, and we're going to need a constructor for this. All right, let's do the card. The card's just going to be a function component. So RFC delete. Let's go to the bottom. I'm just going to memoize it so it doesn't redraw if there's no state change. Just the way to create more efficient components, React components. So let's export default, and we'll do a react.memo of the card. And this guy's going to need the props. So we'll do that now. Okay. So we have the deck. The app's using the deck. We can close this guy. Let's close this. And let's start putting all of the elements on screen, and then we'll apply the styling. So let's do a split screen thing. Let's do this on the right side, this guy on the left side. Let's give a bit more room like this. This guy can go all the way over here. No. There we go. All right, so initially we're going to need cards. So this the deck's going to hold a bunch of cards. So in this state, we're just going to do cards. It's going to be an empty array. And we're going to define the number of cards in the state. Depending on your use case, however you're going to do it. For this one, we're hard coding the number of cards. So we'll do it by index, not by, I don't know how you'd say this, but not by what you would think or what a non-programmer would think in terms of numbers. So we'll just say number of cards by index. We'll do 3 cards for this tutorial. So we'll just say 2 right here. So we have 2, and let's start defining our structure of the HTML. We're not going to use divs on this guy. We don't want unnecessary divs drawn on the page. We're just going to use a fragment to surround these things. All right, so let's lay down some buttons and some divs and some images. So the first one is going to be a button, or the first 2. We'll say prev times 2. It's going to be the previous button. Then we'll need the next button. That's next right there. Let's see if it's hooked up to the server. Save. Is it on? There we go. All right, next is just a touch area. So .touch_area. We are going to need 2 things with this. A reference to it, so I'll define that now, ref_id. We'll call it the touch area. And we're also going to need to apply some style. You don't need a class name for this tutorial because we're defining the styles in an object. If you're defining your styles in a CSS, then you need the class name. I'm just going to leave it here. So style is equal to, and it's going to be styles. not style sheet, excuse me. Styles dot touch underscore area. Let me define that object right now. Styles dot touch area. What's going on? Let's define it here. Say const styles is equal to object, and we'll define the touch area last. The first one's going to be the viewport. There we go. Second one is going to be the images container, and third one's going to be that touch underscore area. All right, so let's define the viewport. So div view underscore port. Same thing. We need the ref and a style. So ref's equal to, why am I writing it when I can just copy it? So we'll take this, including the style. Copy, paste. This is just going to be the viewport. So view underscore port. Same thing with the styles. View underscore port. So we have those, and in the viewport, we have our images container. So we'll do what are we going to do? Div, and this is going to be images underscore container. There we go. And can I do Control V here? Yeah, I can. Same thing. We'll just call this the images, not container. We'll just say images for short. This one is just going to be the images underscore container. And in the images container, we have a bunch of cards that we're going to make. It's going to be an array of JSX elements. So to populate the all of those cards on screen, we can do this right here. So this.state.cards. Let's go to the card, get the structure done. We'll do the CSS, and then we'll populate the cards, and then we'll get something on the screen on the right here. So save this. Let's go to the card. And for this guy, let me delete this. We need a card. So div card, and the same thing, Control V. This will be we don't need a reference to this. We're not manipulating the card directly. We're manipulating the images container, and that will manipulate the cards. But it still has styles. So card, and in each card, we have an image. And the source is going to come from the props. So we'll just do props dot, we're going to name it Pixum. Pixum's a random image site. Pixum, like that. And there's no real class for this, but there is a style for this. So we'll do style. Styles equal to, I don't think it's self-closing like that. We'll see. No, it is, I think. Styles dot, and this one we'll just do img. Let's create our style object, or styles object. So we need the card, and we need the img. All right. Why is it giving me that? Alt prop. We'll give an alt of OK. Alt's equal to OK. Save. All right. So let's populate these cards. We'll do it when the component mounts. So let's do this first. We'll do component did mount. And the first thing we need to do is const new cards is equal to an empty array. And we need to fill this array. So we're going to do for let I is equal to 0. I is equal to 0. We'll do I is less than or equal to that number of cards by index. This.state.number of cards by index. I plus plus. And we're just going to push some new cards into this array. So new cards dot push. Let's do it this way. So a card and the source, which we named, what was the prop name? Where is it? Pixum. Pixum is equal to, and it's going to be slash, there we go. All right, it's just going to be equal to a string. So https://pixum.photos, and we'll do 600 by 350. But the 350 will be like this, 350 plus I. This is just because if you give the same dimensions to Pixum, it gives you the exact same photo. So we have 3 identical photos. It'd just be visually incoherent. So increasing by I is just going to be 350, 351, 352, just so we get 3 different pictures. So we give Pixum photos, https 350i. That goes here. They display the image. Okay, after we're done pushing all of the cards and the new cards, let's set the state. So update the state like this. The cards are equal to the new cards like that. And we're going to do some stuff after we set the state. So let me do that right now. Second argument is just a callback function. All right, let's save, see what we get. This.state is not a function. Set state, excuse me. Save, we should get 3 images. All right, so let's start styling this thing. What we're gonna do now is we're just gonna center everything on the screen. We will start with the viewport. Yeah, all right. So margin of 0. Margin of 0. Let me scroll up just a bit. Margin of 0, padding of 0. We'll do a width of, for this, we'll do 500 by 300. So 500 pixels by 300 pixels. So height, 300 pixels there. And then we'll just do a position of absolute. We'll do a top of 50%. We'll do a left of 50% as well. And we'll do a transform, translate, -50, -50. And for this guy, we have an overflow of hidden. For the other guys, no. So let's save and see what we get. Okay, let's take off the overflow so we can see what we're doing. There we go. So it's much of the same logic for all of these styles. So let me just copy all of this, except the overflow stuff. So copy this, paste here, not that paste, paste there. Let's copy it one more time. And we'll paste right here. All right, so margin 0, padding 0. The width's just going to inherit from the parent. So inherit, same thing with the height. Inherit. Absolute's good. Top, left, transforms good. Touch area, good, good. This guy is just going to be full screen or full width of the screen. So 100 viewport width, we'll keep that at 300. Position absolute, that's okay. Transforms okay. Let's do this so we can see it. Background. Color. It's going to be an RGBA value. Red, green, blue, and alpha. So full red, 0 green, 0 blue, 0.2 alpha. And we want it to stay on top of everything on the screen. So a Z index of, we'll just do 99999. Let's save, see what we get. All right, so let's style the card in the image. Again, same logic, so let me copy these guys. Yank that. Let's go here, enter, enter, paste, paste. All right, for the card, width, good, 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 good. Image, no margin, no padding. The width is going to be a max width. And we'll just do 100%. Same thing with the height, max height. Max height. Position absolute, we'll do position relative. Top 50, 50, 50, save, see what we get. There we go. So the images are resized to be in the middle of the screen, and they're originally 600 by 350, 351, 352, but they're resized to the 500 by 300. Just to make sure we have that correct, let's do this. Let me modify the viewport and see if it's actually hooked up properly. Let's go 200 by 300. Save. Okay, good. Let's go back to 500. Or 5, save. Okay, so we have everything on screen. We have it all centered. Let's order this thing. So it's in the center. We want the first of these this image carousel to be on the left side here. The second one stays in place, and then the third one goes on the right here. So let's write a function called order cards, and let's handle that. Let's go back to the right. So as soon as we're done setting the cards, let's call a function called this.order cards. Let's write that down here. Order underscore cards. Arrow function. There we go. And what do we need with this guy? We need a counter for the left, a counter for the right, and we need the card width. Card width, card width. Let's keep it here. So we're just going to say const card underscore width. We're just going to get the card width from the viewport here. So it's going to be in the width property. Card width is equal to parse float of the styles.viewport.width. There we go. And we also need a counter for the left. Those are lets, not consts. So let counter for right. I'll explain what these counters are in a second. I'll explain all the logic of this function in a second. Let me just write it down before I forget it. Counter for right, 1. Counter for left. That's what I'm forgetting. It's going to be middle card by index. We need to know which card's the middle card. To get that, all we need to do is this. Say middle card by index is equal to this. Let's do this way. This dot state dot number of cards divided by 2. And if it's a decimal, we're just going to floor it. So math dot floor like that. So counter for right starts at 1. Counter for left, middle card by index. Let's loop through. So for let I is equal to 0. I is less than or equal to, I don't like using the state for this. We hooked up into the, we have the images, so let's just use this guy. I just don't like doing less than or equal to, I like doing less than. You can absolutely do less than or equal to this dot state dot number of cards by index. But since we already have a reference to the images, the children, and in the future you might not want to hard code your number of cards by index, you might want to just take how many cards are actually in the carousel. We're going to do it this way. So this dot images dot children dot length, like that. And I++. First thing we need to do is say this dot images dot children of I, set the style dot transition duration to 0. So do we get any wonky animations or transition lengths? And then we have our if conditional block. And so if I is less than the middle card by index, we know we're working with the left half of the deck. So we're going to do something there. Else if I is greater than the middle card by index, we know we're working the right half of the deck. And else, we know we're on the center card or the middle of the deck. What are we going to do? We're just going to transport or transform or translate the cards to the left, visually, actually, to the left. So we'll do this dot images dot children I dot style dot left is equal to, and it's going to be a pixel denomination, so px like this. And the formula is just going to be counter for left times we have the card width. Yes, we do. Card width, and it's going to be minus, and this is going to look confusing. I'll explain it after I'm done writing it. So card width divided by 2. Not W, excuse me, 2. And then counter for left, we decrement that. Same logic for the right, you just reverse the logic. So counter for right, card width's good. Instead of minus, we add, and counter for right, and we plus, not minus, minus. And finally, for this one, we just do a simple, let me copy that line instead of writing it. We do a simple this, delete all this. A simple card width divided by 2. All right, let's run this, see if it works, and then I'll explain it. So save. And we have cannot read property children of undefined. And why is that? I forgot to actually equate the ref IDs, guys. So ref underscore ID will do equals ref underscore ID. And is equal to ref underscore ID. Save. Let's see if we're good to go. Cannot read property style of undefined. 36. 36. Images I. Let I. Image children length. And there we go. This. When I thought I deleted that equals sign when I talked about the using either this dot state dot number of cards by index or the length, but I didn't. So let's delete that. Let's save and see if we're working now. Full screen. And with the right card going here, why isn't the left card going? Left card, something's wrong with this logic. I less than middle card. Left, counter, minus, minus. We want to move it left, guys. So that's a minus right there. The other guys can stay positive. Save. Do we have it now? There we go. So we have all the images centered, and then we use that order cards to order them left to right. What's left to do? Oh, actually explain that function. And so I'm going to cut away to I built this carousel in JavaScript first, and we're just porting it over to ReactJS. So in that video, I explained how the order cards function worked. I don't want to repeat myself, so I'm going to cut to that explanation. The code's going to be slightly different because that's in JavaScript. This is in JSX, so the code here is different, but the logic is exactly the same. So don't worry about it. You'll understand it. Once you guys finish viewing that explanation, we'll come back and we'll finish this this phase. All right. So how is that the order cards function working? Let's say we have the stack of cards, the deck in the center, and for the sake of this example, we're going to do more than 3 cards, or the numbers are going to overlap. It's going to be really confusing. So let's say we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 cards, 0 through 4. The counter on the right starts at 1. So let me just say CR starts at 1. And the counter on the left here starts at the middle card by index. So it starts at 2 right here. So CL is equal to 2. How do we get these 2 cards to show up here and these 2 cards to show up here? Control Z, 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 Z. Z, there we go. So for the formula for the left, what we're saying is counter for left times new width. We'll explain this in a moment. This is a bit more complicated. We're just concentrating on these guys. Counter for left times width, and it's going to be a minus because we're moving in the left direction. And then counter for right times width. So let's deal with the left half first. So counter for left times the new width. Counter for left starts at 2. Let's say, for the sake of keeping it simple, 100 pixel widths. So 2 times 100 is 200. And then we decrement the counter for left. So what this says is for this card right here, starting here, move 200 pixels by to the left. So 100, 200. So that 0 card ends up here. And then we decrement the 2 to a 1 times 100, 100 pixels to the left. So move 100 pixels. So this card here goes right here. The counter for the right is just the opposite. So start at 1 times 100 is equal to 100 pixels. So start from here. This card right here goes right here. Increment 1, so we get 2 by 100. We get the 200 pixels. So that goes here, 100, 200. So that gets thrown or moved over there. So that's how we're using these counters to shift all of the cards to the left, and all the cards to the right, What is that card width divided by 2 stuff? This guy right here. That has to do with this guy right here, this transform. And so visually, these cards look like they're in the middle of the screen. So let's say this is our screen right here. The cards look like they're here. Mathematically, they're not here. So let me do this. When we put a top 50%, left 50%, we're putting all of the cards right here. And then we apply the transformation, -50, -50, which drags the cards 50% on their X to the left and 50% on their Y up. So it repositions all of those cards to look like they're in the center. And because we transform them in the center, 50% of the width of a card, for this example, it's going to be 50 pixels. So all of these cards are shifted initially. They're not at 0, 0. They're not at a complete neutral position. They're offset by card width divided by 2. So all these cards have a 50 pixel deficit on the left side on their X. And we don't really care about the Y because we're not scrolling these images up. So we're just going to deal with the X. Let me draw that a bit neater. So all these cards have a 50, for example, a 50 pixel deficit in the, or surplus, as you'll see, in the X direction going to the left. That's why when we shift the cards here, down here, let's take in this whole calculation and see what we get. Let's go here. So what's 2 times 100? That's 200. But remember, we're already 50 pixels to the left. So already 50 pixels in the left direction. So we start here, 100, 200, and 50. So this card here, let me do this, 100, 200, 50. So this card right here is actually starting here. This is why we need to subtract that deficit from this calculation so that we can actually have, that's the 250. 250 minus 50 is 200. So the card actually now starts here. Same thing with this guy right here. Let me use a different color. 1 times 100 is 100 minus that 50 because we're moving in the left direction. What we get is 100 and then 150. We subtract that deficit and we get pushed back over here. And so this one card ends up where we want it to go. Same thing for the counter right. Let's do red here. Move just here. So remember, we're 50 pixels in the left direction. So what's 1 times 100? That's 100. Let's do this. So this guy right here, start here, 100, but we're 50 pixels in the left direction. So we go back 50 pixels. So this card starts here. We want it to start here, which is why we add 50 pixels to get rid of this guy right here. So that guy goes here. 2 times 100 is 200. So start here, use green, 100, 200, minus that 50 puts us back here, plus the 50 to take it away puts us right back here. So that 4 gets drawn right here. So that's what the new width divided by 2 is doing. It's just getting rid of this deficit or surplus depending on which direction we're going. That's why when we're on the middle card right here, you'd expect us to not transform it in any way. But the left of that middle card, let me stop that. The left of this middle card is actually at 50 for the purposes of transforming or navigating this carousel later on. We need this guy to be 0. That's why we need to add. So this guy's negative 50 in the left direction. We need to add 50 pixels right here, right there, in order to make it neutral, a 0 pixel value. So that's all these new widths divided by 2 are doing. And so that's what ordered cards, the function, is doing. Just taking the left half or treating the left half of the deck one certain way, and then treating the right half of the deck a different, just the opposite, the inverse way. Let's get back into the code. All right, so you guys know how the order cards function's working. Let's make this thing responsive, and then that's it for the phase 1. So currently, we do this, and the images stay the exact same size. We want to make them responsive based on how the user is resizing their window. So let's put that to the right. Let's get to the left. In order to do that, we need to go by percentage and not pixels first. So let's do this. Let's go let. Should I do let? Yeah, I'll do let. We'll do let image width as a percentage. And for this, we'll just do 50%. And the next line I'm writing right here, I'll explain in 2 seconds. So image width as a percent is equal to window.inner width is less than 768. Then we want 100%, else we'll just keep with the percentage we crafted here. And so all this line is doing is if they resize the window below a certain width, in this case 768, we want the image to kind of look like what it looks like now, where it takes up the whole width of the screen. Depending on your use case, you can turn this on and off. For this tutorial, we're going to turn it off, but I'm just going to keep it in there in case you guys want that option. And so we have the image width as a percentage. We need to calculate what is that percentage in terms of actual pixels on the screen. And so the formula for that will be this. Let's say this .new underscore width is equal to, and we need to check what device they're using. Are they on a mobile or are they on a desktop? So I'm going to copy and paste a string here. And so all this line is saying is if the navigator.userAgent is any one of these, basically if they're on mobile, Android, WebOS, iPhone, iPad, all blah, 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 Opera Mini. So if they're on there, we'll do a simple formula as, so you take the image width as a percentage, divide by 100, so we get the actual decimal number, 0.5 in this case. We just multiply it by window.screen. So mobile uses screen. The desktop uses the inner width. So window screen.width. If they're on a desktop version, then we don't use the window screen width. We just use the window.inner width. It should be a capital W and an H here. All right, so we have the percentage or the actual pixel count of the image on the screen. We need to resize the viewport. And where are we here? So when we resize the viewport here, because all of these guys, not the touch area, excuse me. So this guy and this guy and this guy, they're all relative to the viewport. So if we resize the viewport, we resize the images container, which resizes the card, which resizes the image. So right here, all we need to do is resize the actual viewport. And we'll do that right here. So we'll say this dot, let me just make sure I got the reference correct, so it doesn't blow up like last time. Viewport ref ID, perfect. This dot viewport dot style dot width is equal to, and we'll just do the this dot new width, and of course that's in pixels. There we go. We save, and this should go a lot smaller. Now notice it's 50% of the width of the window. Why isn't it ordered properly? Let me do this. What's going on with the order? Well, we are calling order here, but this order is using that baked in hard-coded card width. So we need to change the card width here to the new width. So we'll just do this dot new dot or underscore width. Same thing for these four guys. So this dot new underscore width. And go right. There we go. This dot new width. Same thing here. This dot new underscore width, and finally this dot new underscore width. So we save, and the image is 50% of the width of the window. But watch this. So let's resize the window dynamically. So the images should shrink and they should grow. They should always be 50% of the width of the browser window. So what's happening? We have to listen for a resize event and just rerun that logic, the resize logic. So we'll do that here. Should I do it right here? Yeah, you can declare it wherever you want. I'll just do it right here. So just window.addEventListener. We're going to listen for a resize. We don't need the actual event object. And we just want to copy and paste that exact same logic. So image width as a percentage, the new width, and the viewport, and of course the order cards. So let me do this. And I won't do the order cards just yet, just so you see how funky it looks. So 50, new width, viewport, save, go back. There we go. And the images shrink relative to the width of the window, but they're not reordering. So we have to call the order cards function as well. This dot order cards, save, and we are there. So 50%. It looks better when you do one image. So let me do that. Or actually the overflow, excuse me. Still 3 images on screen. You just see one. So whatever you do, the image maintains 50% of the width of the entire screen. Let me show you that line I commented out in case you want that sort of use case or functionality. So this guy right here. Save, go back. And so for larger than 768, we get 50% of the width of the window. We shrink down and we get 100% of the window. In case you want that, I'll leave that in here. But for this tutorial, phase 1 and phase 2, we will comment that part out. And that is going to be, let me think before I end this video. So everything's on screen, everything's ordered, it's resizing perfectly, so it's responsive. And so that's going to be it for this video. That's phase 1. In the next phase, we're going to do all of the navigation. We'll start with the touch navigation. That's the most difficult one. And then we're just going to copy and paste that logic into the button wheel, modify it by like 1 or 2 lines, and then we should be home free with the with this ReactJS image carousel. And so don't forget to leave a like. It helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And I will see you guys in that next phase.